In the world of professional wrestling, many performers pass through the industry with memorable careers, influential characters, and unmatched storytelling abilities. Yet only a few leave behind a legacy so impactful that fans still debate how their talent was used, long after their time in the spotlight has faded. One such name is Raven, a performer widely regarded as one of wrestling's most creative minds. Despite his intelligence, unique persona, and storytelling brilliance, Raven's time in WWE was surprisingly unimpressive. It was a period filled with missed opportunities, questionable booking decisions, and an overall lack of direction that prevented him from reaching the potential he clearly possessed. Today, looking back with a critical eye, it becomes obvious that Raven's WWE career was far below what he deserved. This is not a criticism of his skills, because Raven's talent was never in doubt. Instead, it is a closer examination of how a performer who once revolutionized wrestling storytelling ended up being underutilized in the biggest wrestling company on the planet. Before joining WWE, Raven had already built a powerful reputation as one of wrestling's deepest psychological characters. During the 1990s, his work in ECW was groundbreaking. He created long-form storylines, layered rivalries, and emotional arcs that felt more like gritty dramas than traditional wrestling feuds. His rivalry with Tommy Dreamer remains one of the most iconic stories in ECW history. From his look to his promos, Raven brought something completely different to the table. The grunge-inspired attire, the dark personality, the tortured poet monologues, everything made him feel dangerously real. In WCW, he further proved his value. Whether leading the flock or playing the lone anti-hero, he stood out instantly. So, when Raven arrived in WWE in 2000, fans believed he would finally get a stage big enough to showcase his brilliance. Many imagined new feuds, intense psychological battles, and perhaps even a run as a top villain. Instead, what they got was disappointing. The early 2000s were a time of massive transition for WWE. The company was growing rapidly and had just defeated WCW in the Monday Night War. The roster was stacked with big personalities, and WWE had a very specific style of storytelling. Unfortunately, this environment wasn't ideal for a character like Raven. Raven's strengths were subtle, his promos were thoughtful, layered, and filled with symbolism. His storytelling style relied heavily on character development and emotional depth, something WWE rarely prioritized unless the wrestler was a main event figure. Instead of adapting to Raven's strengths, WWE attempted to mold him into a mid-card performer with no direction. They didn't give him time to speak, didn't offer him meaningful rivalries, and didn't explore his psychological persona. Rather than letting the dark philosopher character flourish, they reduced him to short matches, comedic moments, and forgettable segments that wasted his potential. For a mind as creative as Raven's, this was a frustrating reality. One of the only significant parts of Raven's WWE career was his involvement in the hardcore championship scene. The title often changed hands multiple times per night due to the 24/7 rule, and Raven was one of the most active champions in that era. He had dozens of reigns and contributed heavily to the division's chaotic entertainment. For fans who loved hardcore matches, Raven brought creative spots, brawling intelligence, and unpredictability. He even competed in WrestleMania X7's iconic hardcore championship triple threat match, a moment many still remember fondly. However, being boxed into the hardcore division also limited him severely. The hardcore title was not treated as a serious championship. It was mostly used for comedy segments, backstage brawls, and short, throwaway matches. This prevented Raven from engaging in deeper rivalries or displaying his psychological brilliance. While he made the most of the role, it always felt like a step down from what he was truly capable of. Even Raven later admitted that WWE never allowed him to express his creativity, and the hardcore division, although entertaining, wasn't the platform he needed. One of the clearest signs that Raven was misused in WWE was the complete lack of meaningful storylines. Despite his reputation as one of wrestling's greatest storytellers, he didn't receive a long-term feud. He wasn't placed with major stars. He didn't get character development segments. His persona was never explained for new WWE audiences. Without the emotional depth he was known for, Raven was lost in the shuffle. In ECW, Raven was the centerpiece of dramatic story arcs. In WCW, he had his own faction and presence. But in WWE, he became just another mid-card talent with no narrative direction. This was a stark contrast to his potential. Raven could have created legendary storylines with performers like The Undertaker, Mick Foley, Kane, or even Chris Jericho, characters who thrived in dark, psychological storytelling. But those feuds never happened. Instead, he remained stuck in the background, never rising above the mid-card. Beyond wrestling, Raven was known for his intelligence and creativity. He understood psychology, he understood storytelling, and he understood how to make characters feel real. Many performers have praised him for his ideas and input. Yet WWE never used him as a writer or creative contributor. This was another missed opportunity. Someone with Raven's mind could have helped craft deeper stories in an era where wrestling was becoming more entertainment-driven than character-driven. Instead, his ideas remained unused, and his value behind the scenes went largely untapped. Raven also dealt with injuries during his WWE run, which further disrupted his momentum. WWE often prefers wrestlers who can remain consistently active, and Raven's injuries made the company less willing to invest in long-term plans for him. However, even considering this, many fans believe WWE did not give him enough chances. Others with similar injury issues still received opportunities because WWE recognized their star potential. Raven simply never got the same level of faith. After leaving WWE, Raven continued wrestling in other promotions, and once again proved his brilliance. His run in TNA Impact Wrestling in the mid-2000s reminded fans of who he really was. He became NWA World Heavyweight Champion, delivered dark promos, and built storylines that positioned him as a major force. It was exactly the type of character work WWE never allowed him to display. This resurgence outside WWE clearly showed that the problem was never Raven's ability, it was WWE's unwillingness to let his creativity shine. Raven's persona was unlike anything WWE had at the time. Dark, poetic, unpredictable, he could have brought a new dimension to WWE storytelling. Few wrestlers understood narrative psychology like Raven. WWE could have benefited greatly from his mind. When Raven arrived, he already had a large fanbase from ECW and WCW. WWE failed to capitalize on this. His character work and promo style could have helped develop other performers through deep rivalries. His success in every other major promotion makes his WWE struggles even more frustrating. Looking back, there were many ways WWE could have used Raven more effectively. Establishing his character through promos. Raven should have been given time to speak. His entire persona was built through promos. Creating psychological feuds. Raven could have engaged in mind games with wrestlers like The Undertaker, Edge, or even Jeff Hardy. Leading a faction, like The Flock, in WCW, Raven could have led a dark, rebellious group in WWE. Positioning him in the Intercontinental title scene, he had the skill and character depth to be a major mid-card champion, not just a hardcore competitor. Using him as a creative consultant. Even if he wasn't a top star, his creative genius could have shaped storylines behind the scenes. The possibilities were endless, but none were explored. In the end, Raven's WWE run will always be remembered as a missed opportunity. WWE had a performer with one of the most unique minds in wrestling, a captivating character, and a proven track record of storytelling brilliance. Yet they failed to recognize the value he brought. Instead of giving Raven a meaningful platform, WWE placed him in a box, limiting him to short brawls, comedic segments, and forgettable matches. Today, wrestling fans look back on Raven's career and realize just how much more he could have offered if given the chance. His WWE chapter may have been disappointing, but it does nothing to erase the legacy he built everywhere else. Raven deserved better, and the wrestling world knows it.